Hey, welcome everybody to another great episode of the Red, White, and You Show. Today, I have two powerhouses with me that are just making a difference in this world. Jen and Tom Satterly. Am I saying that correctly, guys?
Yes,
You
thank
got it.
goodness. Most
Perfect.
people don't.
Yeah. Well, let me describe them and the All Secure Foundation, because that's what they're here today to talk about. But the All Secure Foundation serves combat warriors and their families. Their mission is simple: leave no man, woman, child behind. All Secure Foundation was founded by Tom and Jen Satterly in 2017 as a resource for combat warriors and their spouses to regain their footing post-service. Command Sergeant Major retired Satterly spent 25 years in the Army, 20 in Delta Force and hundreds of missions, including Battle of Mogadishu, and captured regime leaders, rescued hostages, and led a 10,000-person task force in Iraq before retiring. Post-service, Tom struggled with PTS, self-medicating with alcohol, and slipped into a dark depression. At his lowest point, he nearly became a veteran statistic by ending his own life, and a text from Jen stopped him in his tracks, and he began to slowly rebuild his life. Jen worked alongside Tom, filming realistic military training exercises for 3 years in special operations, embedding with Green Berets and Navy SEALs. It's during her time there that she became passionate about not only helping her husband recover, but anyone who has lost their footing post-combat, and to assist their spouses and children who have also sacrificed greatly for this nation's many freedoms. Then Jen went back to school and became a certified coach, specializing in nutrition, knowing that food is medicine and part of the successful healing of PTS. She and Tom have volunteered hundreds of hours to hundreds of active duty military service members and veterans, and speak across the country, including Congress, on many issues veterans face. That's a mouthful, but welcome, guys. Tom and Jen, welcome to the Red, White, and You Show.
Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely. So, if you would, now I know that is very well written, but if you could maybe share a little bit with the viewers of who you guys are and what All Secure does and what you guys are doing.
Sure, sounds great. So,
Like,
where to begin? So, All Secure Foundation was really founded, and with some hesitation. Tom was like, "You want to start a nonprofit?"
I was the hesitant one.
We don't know anything about nonprofits. I'm like, "If you're a Delta Force CSM, I think we could figure this out." I think everything's figure outable, but really, the time that I had spent filming realistic military training exercises, those would last anywhere from 10 days to 3 to 4 weeks. So during that time, I got to know the guys really well. I got to kind of lift the curtain behind special operations as a civilian. It was a complete unique experience. And but what I started to see year after year was that the problem, and during that time, some of the guys that we were working with had committed suicide. Some were lost in battle. And when really I started talking to the command about what they were doing to help warriors on the home front or to come home, the look was confused more than not. And so I knew that,
That was our crossover period too,
Yeah.
to where, to me, that was normal. Guys not coming back from combat, because we would train them just before their deployments.
Right.
We would video it, and she got to know everybody. She became the den mother, which is where the foundation came from. All these issues that were hidden underneath these cool, strong guys, and it was lost on me because I was immersed in it. Right?
Sure.
So, and she's like, "This is not normal that they don't come back. This is not normal that they kill themselves." And her empathetic heart, which I had zero. I mean, to me, this was life as normal. This is the way it's always going to be. She said, "It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way." I mean, guys will get killed in combat, sure, but the guys commit suicide, and the way that it makes most of you feel in time doesn't have to exist. We can work on that. And so that's where I was resistant, because I didn't see it. I didn't see it, right?
Yeah, not until you saw it. And then
No,
once,
yeah.
I think
Until I opened my eyes. Yeah.
it was one of those things that, we were asked why we started the foundation. And that truly was part of it, is I couldn't unsee what I saw. I couldn't go back to, being blind to how many people were suffering, not just the warrior, but the warrior family. And I knew we had to do something, at least try to do something. And
Right.
so we set out and got to work.
And part of
Well,
the problem is the hesitation to speak out. And she was using me as an example. You don't want to speak out. You're hurting. I see it. You're keeping it hidden, right? So don't you think that the others are doing the same? And it was like, well, when you use my own ammunition against me, it kind of sucks. But it worked. And she's like, you're a leader, be a leader,
Mm,
and we'll figure it out. And we did. I mean, she did the lion's share of what to do and figuring it out on the internet while I had to work to continue paying the bills and feeding the kids and whatnot. Gave her the ability to do those things that suck and are boring and difficult, and she knocked it
Oh,
all
the
out.
paperwork.
Yeah, the paperwork.
well, it's interesting, right? Like the military is a culture, and Tom, you talked about not seeing it because I just think of from firsthand experience, like, sometimes they just end up as a name on the blotter, right? Or a report
Yeah.
that comes across the desk and is like, that sucks. But,
Mhm.
and yeah, there's a part of you that might be sad, but at the same time, it's part of the culture.
Yeah.
Is, terrible as that sounds, it's part of the culture, and it becomes part of the background noise that we don't see, right?
Yeah, I
And
was
it
proud
take,
of it.
what's that?
I was proud of it. I would brag about it. I would try to stop her from feeling so empathetic.
Mm,
I'm like, you don't know these people. You don't
We
pick up the
did.
paper and read the obituaries and cry, right? You don't know those people.
right,
You might have touched on them once or something, or seen them in a training exercise. She's like, but they're humans. I just
right,
lost on me. Like you say, it's part of the culture.
right, yeah. And I think part of that is a survival mechanism too, right? Saying why get so close, because deep down that the closer you get to it, the harder it's going to be to deal with, right?
That's the
uh,
fear. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the fear.
And you as a soldier, and especially doing what you were doing, you don't want that to cloud your judgment when you have to go at a moment's notice to do God knows what, and saying you got to make a lot of difficult decisions at the time, and knowing that you could ask a lot of rock star soldiers out there to go risk their life or give their life to potentially in a mission, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Do it without even thinking. But ask them to take care of themselves, right? Fight for
right.
themselves. Now they'll argue. Converting my friends is a chore. My friends are the hardest. Family members are the
I
worst. Friends
agree.
are the hard. And then strangers are easy,
Yeah.
right? They don't know you. You don't know them. And she said, use your background to reach people. So, okay. Yeah, I was in Delta. Woo, I'm not that
Right.
kind of guy, but if it turns people on and gets them to listen, and they listen, and then they listen to what I'm saying, which is, hey,
Right.
it messed me up, go get help. So they go get help. And it's the friends that don't want to,
Mm,
you're close, you know each other are struggling, and
yeah.
they don't want to cross that line. They just can't do it. It's like, that's the way
Right.
it's supposed to be. I just miss going to war. And I would just wish I was back. I go, you keep living in that dream. You keep living in the past, because we're
Right.
here now, and you're not in the unit. You're not in the army. You're not wherever you're at.
Right.
You're
Right.
here right now, miserable, wishing, and that's not going to make it come back.
And you're making everyone else around you miserable too.
Yeah, I mean,
And
people that
your
love
spouse
you
and kids
are watching
don't.
you sink further.
Sorry.
I'm
Dub,
sorry.
dub, 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 dub.
That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Coronavirus.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you guys. So, Jen, I know that you had a background in photography and you did that for many years before even meeting Tom, right? So, and you did some time in the Dominican and everything else. So one of my questions is like, was this after you guys met or married or whatever that you got wrapped up into doing this film project embedding with these special operation units?
No, so I was hired to direct a piece, and I actually said no 3 times. because
Ask her how she felt about the military.
No, it wasn't
Sorry.
that. It was that at the time I was doing sports marketing. I was doing all of the TV commercials to print ads to packaging for a company called Earbuds. So they were sports marketing. At the time, I was also working with Albert Pujols' foundation, and did work for the Cardinals. So I was doing a lot of sports kind of things. And then on the other side of it, I was still doing the work in commercial advertising. And, this project came up and it was, hey, there's a special operation project. And I just felt like, I don't know anything about special operations. I don't know anything about military. I don't know anything about war.
And she was afraid to do it. And in a complete turnaround, which just came to me, was the veterans we try to get to speak to therapists are like, well, they've never been to war. They won't understand me, right?
Right.
It's like, here you have a professional with a skill and you won't do it. And you were the same way. You were like, well, I don't know anything about that, but it was your skill that was needed, right? I mean, it goes both ways. We're all the same every time we look at it.
So I didn't know him at all. He was on the project and we didn't even talk. I actually talked to his parents and his son a lot. And
I had zero interest in anybody at that point in my life.
Sure.
2 words.
Zero. I don't even think I talked to my parents and my son when they were there watching and helping out. That was just, it was work. Everything was work, and that was all that mattered.
Yeah. So then I got the bug after going on the first RMT, just because the first experience was so mind blowing. I mean, I never, we live in the flight path for Scott Air Force Base.
Sure.
So you'll see Black Hawks, or you'll see, things flying way up overhead, and every now and then you're like, oh, that's cool, or hey guys. But that was my experience, even though my father served, he was out before I was born. So on this first RMT, when there's Black Hawks that are so close, that my hair's getting sucked up and I'm trying to hold the camera, and he's literally holding me because I'm getting blown over.
Shoved her in the back of a CH-47 at night while she was staring through her infrared or her night vision scope on her camera, filming them loading up this Chinook in the parking lot of a closed down VA hospital in North Charleston. And it was blowing sand and trees everywhere. And she's standing there, this is awesome. And I shoved her in the back of it. She'd never been on a helicopter before. I go, just grab something and sit down. Don't touch anything.
I couldn't see anything. It was hilarious. All the guys are in there, and I'm like, and I just felt somebody grab me by my shirt and sit me down. And I'm like, thank you, whoever just did that. And I felt like, initially it felt like this really amazing experience. I always wanted to be a National Geographic photographer. That's how I got into doing what I did in the commercial sector. But here I am around, Green Berets or Rangers or SEALs, and I'm getting to see what civilians don't get to see. And having these experiences that were both scary and thrilling. And that's how it started. But over time and over the years, when a team that we were, training, and you get to know and you're with them for 30 days and some of those guys don't come back, it started to get heavier and heavier and heavier for me every time I went, which was about every 2 weeks. I would be home for about 2 weeks and then go again. So the op tempo was constant.
She's worried about her kids.
Years.
But I can't leave my kids. I go, what are you kidding me? Get a sitter. Get a sitter. It's your job. Let's do this. And I didn't get it. Right. I just didn't get it the whole time. It was my world clashes with this world of family and caring and taking care of yourself. And it was like, eat out of the gas station. It's like, we haven't eaten in 3 days, guys. I'm like, all right, pull over to Texaco and get a burrito or something, or a Snickers, and let's keep going.
I got hangry.
She got very hangry on day 4 and screamed at us until we drove her to a
Everybody's eyes did this. I need to eat.
Better feed Jen.
Jen needs to sleep. She needs a shower, and I need food, but food first.
Yeah.
But yeah, it got heavy and heavier and heavier, because I knew the reality that some of these guys that were training, and then we would hang out with them around the pool during downtime, and that's really where these conversations started happening, was in the downtime. Or we might, the group of the contractors running the exercise, we would go out and have drinks with them later, and people just started spilling. I was usually the only female or the only female on the team.
Welcome
So,
to one of the guys' night out. It was
yeah.
some of the stuff that came out was a testament to how embedded she was. These are all SF guys that are role players, linguists, rangers, that are playing the infantry cats. And so we're giving them the best realistic picture we can with language and dress. And then, when it's over and we can go out, because typically we could never go out. You work all night, you sleep all day, you work all night. Every now and then you get a night off. It's a Sunday night. We're going to go to this brewery. And
day 15.
Yeah, day 15, you get a Sunday night. And we're going to burn it down. And there she sits, just listening. And the stories that came out, I was like, whoa, okay. All right, if you want to share that stuff. And so she got a real inside look.
I think
happening.
People forgot I was one of,
I trusted her, So.
And literally we would see the same group because we would train them, and so maybe it was a year later, be the same group. And I'm like, oh, hey, there they are, they're back. And then that's when I started to hear the problems. That's when I started to hear, I'm afraid I'm going to, go through another divorce. I'm 32 and I'm on my second wife. I'm about ready to go through my third. I don't want to get divorced, or I don't know my kids, or I can't relate to them. I'm angry all the time. I don't know why I'm angry all the time or frustrated. And so I just started seeing beyond the kid. I started seeing the person as a husband or a son or a friend. And, I think the last one was a SEAL team that we had known some of the guys and trained with them. I think it was after the third iteration, 4 of the guys didn't come back. And one of the helicopter pilots during a training exercise, that he was my bathroom buddy. So we were at SEAL, one of the
All
SEAL
male
teams,
restrooms.
and I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom. Is there a girl bathroom around here? And they're like, you have to go down a hall and up the floor, and you don't have the clearance to do that. I'm like, well, I gotta go. And so they assigned me a bathroom buddy, and this poor guy, this pilot, for a couple of days, I'm like in the back of the room, like, can you walk me to the bathroom? But he started sharing about how he wanted to propose to his girlfriend. So on day 2, he's like, hey, when I got out of the bathroom, he's like, can I talk to you for a minute? Yeah, sure. And hey, I want to propose in New York, and was going through this whole story. And the sweetest guy, just smart, cool
Task force
guy.
pilot.
And 2 weeks after that, he was killed in a helicopter accident. And I think after that one, it was just a lot of loss that was happening. And I told Tom, I said, I don't think I'm cut out for this.
He crashed that helicopter on himself to save the crew.
And he did. He saved everyone. I think the 2 people were killed, him and maybe the co-pilot or someone else was killed. But everyone else, I think he had 8 people in the back, and risked his life to land that way, to save everyone else. The kind of heroics and the kind of lifestyle that's led is so noble, and it's not seen typically. You can watch a movie and you see everything from, Saving Private Ryan, which frankly, I had to get up and leave the movie theater after the halfway through the opening sequence. I was seeing it with my ex-husband at the time, and I said, I'm going to be in the mall. Like, can you come get me when this is over? Because I can't sit through this. It's horrible. And ended up coming back in about 20 minutes later and finishing the film. But as an empath, war's pretty tough.
I did the same thing, though. I walked out on the opening scene too. I couldn't take it because I knew what it meant. I knew,
Right.
I felt it, and it was very good opening scene. It was very well filmed. It was one of the most realistic things I'd experienced, not being real.
Yeah, for sure. So
When was it, Jen? You talk about being an empath and everything, and I'm well versed in all that. My question to you, when you were seeing this loss and everything, and when was it that you decided, hey, I know that I can help these guys or these folks or the families as well, but through, the different brains, right? They're talking that there's a gut brain and, our logical reptilian brain and all that. So when did you realize, when did all that click for you, connecting the mind, body, spirit aspect?
I think it was, so I had embedded for about 3.5 years. And the last year I was really struggling and probably driving Tom crazy because I loved the community and I loved going on RMTs. But I also was getting pulled because I had two small children at home and I was tired of being gone all the time, wanted to be there. I went from total helicopter mom to like Black Hawk mom, like, always home. And I was the room parent and everything, and then I was gone a lot on these trainings. So part of it was I wanted to come back home with my children, but I didn't want to leave the community and I wanted to help. And so I couldn't quite figure it out. In the last year that we were going on RMTs, it became more apparent every time because instead of getting really excited about setting up all my cameras and all my gear and getting prepped and, working with maybe a SEAL team, like, okay, push this button on your GoPro. And
They never
then,
got it. They
oh
never
my
got
God.
it right.
I was like, this is going to be the best footage. And I'm like, I hear somebody go,
You see a video of a guy coming up going, hey, there's a red light on your helmet. He goes, and then it's over. All the stuff that they paid for, they turned off.
So instead of getting really excited to see that footage and edit and get ready for the next time, I ended up spending a lot of time talking to the guys because again, I would see a lot of them on the same rotations. And then I just got really, even the guys that we were working with, like Tom said, everybody was SF that was either retired or still active and able to. So the people that we worked with, I became very close with. They started seeing a change in Tom because we started getting him help for PTS. So everyone was like, what's Tom doing? Like, he's calmer.
Yeah, it was like,
he's
what's
nicer.
wrong with Tom?
He's happy.
Yeah. What are you hanging around your hippie friends out there in St. Louis? I'm like, well, hey, why? Why? Because I'm happy? I'm posting happy stuff now instead of political or argumentative or, support the troops and F everybody else. It was more understanding. And people are like, whoa, wait a minute. What's wrong with you?
And I got excited to share, like, oh, he's doing this or that and this works. And so I started spending more and more time. And in fact, that last iteration was the longest one. I think was like 34 days that we were with them. And by the end of that, it was like half of the guys I knew had their phone numbers. They were calling me about, hey, before the next deployment, or actually they were getting ready to leave like the next week. And they're like, can you talk to my wife while I'm gone? We're having these problems. I started talking to spouses. And then that's where it all just started clicking. I was like, we have got to, we're training guys, you're training guys, I'm just filming, but you're training guys to fight overseas, but nobody's retraining them to come home. Why don't we do that? Why don't we share your experiences? Why don't we share what's working for you? And we've got this knowledge now. We know what works. We should share it. So that's how it started, really. But it wasn't overnight. I struggled with it a little bit.
It's a 4-year overnight success.
Tom, how was it, for you as the individual that was kind of going through it, undergoing this transformation, being the guinea pig, if you will?
Yeah, it totally was.
Yeah. How was that? What was your experience like?
I had gone below rock bottom. I thought I was rock bottom, and then I kept going deeper because I'm very aggressive at what I do. So I'm going to get down below. I'm going to be the best at hitting rock bottom. And the things that I started to do when I finally relented and said, okay, not that, yeah, I'll get help, not that crap, but okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to trust you. And I kind of took it on like I did OTC, the operator training course, where, okay, the instructors know what they're doing. I'm going to follow that. And I went through my military career with the same attitude of, they wouldn't let you do it if you could die, so just go do it. And I'd go do stuff, and then you learn later when you wake up that, oh, well, you can die doing that stuff. But I finally succumbed to it after digging below rock bottom and coming back up because of a simple hand from her to help me. And with her coaching along the way and the different things we took to and tried, I started feeling better and feeling better. People were noticing. And I really got into it that we can do this for other people because this is amazing. You want to share something that's amazing. And then you got to get over that embarrassment hump, that admittance hump of, well, the dance floor's empty. Let's go.
You talked about that last night.
It's a crappy song, but let's go dance. And we went out there and we started dancing and people start following. And it's just every time somebody thanks us, thanks me, you know, on a private message, because this is not a public thing we like to talk about much. I'm more invigorated, you know, it's like, wow, I hope we get more money so we can bring in more people and help more people because it's all scalable. But feeling normal again, feeling happy, having emotions, you know, I started crying watching home improvement shows. I was like, what's wrong with me? Look at our new house there. And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy for you too. And I'm like, what's happening? She's like, those are emotions coming. I'm like, wow. And at first it was odd and weird and I fought it a little bit.
What is this crap?
It's different, you know, my eyes are leaking, you know, like everybody says, oh, somebody cut an onion, you know. I hear terms like that. But yet I see my brothers who have gone to war together tell each other I love you to each other, like no big deal. But that's it. They won't go deeper and share and cry and open up and release and feel better. And so we just keep pushing them to do that because it's amazing when you feel how you used to feel before you thought the way you should feel should always be this way. I should always be angry and watch out for the bad guys and protect my family. And, you know, kids drive by on bicycles, I shove my wife's head down below the window. It's like, here they come, watch out. You know, oh, okay, it's just kids. You can't live that way. You know, that's the world of probability. And I finally realized I live in the world of possibility. It's possible something bad could happen, but not probable like I'm used to. So it's a shift.
Those heart walls get built really thick, don't they?
Yeah.
And they can be difficult to break through. And once they do, though, I think there's a fear too, that once you start removing a few bricks, the whole damn thing is going to fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Or you won't be, or the other aspect of, you know, the hypervigilance and saying that, you know, I won't be protected. Right. And saying, well, what about my protection that I built? Or, you know, who's going to have my six? Who's going to have my back? And we're always used to have that battle buddy or the rest of our team or whatever there with us and saying, well, who's going to have that now? Because I built this wall and now I don't have any protection. We
actually get asked that a lot. In fact, a friend of Tom's who served with Tom had asked, how do you feel about living in the green? Are you going to be prepared to go to yellow or red?
Do you think you lose your skills if you live in the green too long? You should stay
that's
in the yellow so you're ready to go back in the red. And I said, listen, I get it, but I don't need those skills. I don't need ninja kung fu grip guy anymore. You know, I got the cops. It's not my job anymore. I'm not the defender of the world anymore. I'm not even a cop. I'm not a fireman. My job is to be a civilian and do the job I'm doing now. So you have to let go of your previous employment. That's living that high school touchdown pass you threw back in the 60s or something. Man, I don't want to peak. I don't want to have reached my peak yet. I want to keep peaking. So I don't want to hold on that the unit was my peak, right?
You felt for a long time.
I would feel like a failure because I'll never get that back again. So how will I ever have those feelings?
Right.
So we tell everybody to get a passion. Find something. What is it you like to do? Think about it for a while. You know, you'll figure it out. And then attack that with the same skills you attacked learning to be an operator, learning to be a Green Beret or Ranger, or whatever those skills are. You have the motivation, you have the integrity, you have, you know, the strength to do it. Just focus on what it is you want to do, because it's not going to be that anymore, no matter how long you sit and miss it.
And I will say, we were asked, so we do some training at Fort Bragg, and one of the groups that we work with is the first Special Warfare Training Group Airborne.
I wasn't gonna
I don't know why that one is tough.
That's the other half of Fort Bragg, yes.
And so, you know, we had talked about how we're working. We were supposed to go 4 times a year. In fact, we were just supposed to be there last week and ended up doing Zoom presentations with the FRG group. But we, you know, hopefully we'll get back to Bragg soon. But one of the things we do is kind of talk to the guys who just got out of Q course or going through, so who haven't seen combat, who don't have PTS, maybe will never develop PTS. But just to kind of know if you do have signs or symptoms, what to look for. If you see it in a friend, if you see it in your commander, here's what you can do. And this is, it's been so encouraging that Colonel Ferris brought us in and could say, he said, I have to take care of them. This part of my responsibility is taking care of them at home. And I'm so encouraged to see that and that kind of leadership. But one of the questions we were asked when we were doing a podcast, someone said to me, do you think you're going to make the warfighter weak then? Are you going to take away their armor? And I'm
like they lose a couple of skill points for shooting if they know about how to protect themselves mentally. It's
well,
you don't need to be a savage to be
No.
a warrior. That's probably the worst kind of warrior out there.
And I think that one of the things that Tom and I said was, listen, who do you want to go into battle with? Who do you want to have your six? Do you want somebody who's drinking heavily, who's taking a ton of pills, who has brain fog, the mental clarity isn't there because there's stuff going on at home, or just things that they haven't processed from previous deployments, and they're not on their A game mentally. Can they shoot?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Can they perform? Yeah. But if you're mentally not there, do you want that person in battle, or do you want the one who is taking care of themselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, all of it, the whole package?
You can have it all, and you should have it all to be that elite warrior. Everybody should strive to have that extra skill set to be a tougher warrior, a better warrior.
Let me ask you a question on that, since we're chatting on this a little bit in depth. Is, do you believe, and Tom, maybe you can answer this from a soldier's perspective, and Jen, maybe more of a empathic, intuitive perspective. Do you believe, now seeing everything after the fact, that if the soldier, the active duty serving soldier, whether, I don't care if it's special operations or traditional, develops that ability to be fully in touch with their, all their facilities, right? So, they have these muscle memory skills, right? They can shoot the eye out of a gnat at 1,000 yards. They can take it, they have their soldier skills down. They do it millions of times over. So it's muscle memory, right? But if they're able to develop the expand the mental capacity and develop that, what I call, in my words, Dean's words, the intuitive ability, do you believe that it not only enhances, but it sharpens their ability so they could even be, dare I say, even a step, they're up in their game in a sense?
Absolutely. 1,000%. You would be a better warrior, a better human being. And that is what we owe it to ourselves to have going to war for us. We need empathetic soldiers. It's not going to stop you from entering a room and, well, if I hesitate because I have empathy towards the enemy, I might get killed. That's the muscle memory. Gun, kill it. Threat, kill it. We don't have conversations with these enemies.
Yeah.
We don't know until after the fact if I should have shot him or not. It's too late. Threat, kill it. You go in, there's children in the room, and they're freaking out, to have the empathy to understand what that kid just saw. All right? He's not a terrorist yet. I get the jokes, right? If it wasn't an insurgent, he certainly is now. Yada, yada, yada. But you know what? It's always paid off to have more empathy and compassion towards the enemy while destroying them than not. If I think that I get captured and you're going to take care of me, I might not fight to the death as a bad guy, right? Versus the stories of they're going to cut your head off. I guarantee I talked about it all the time. I'm never ending up in an orange jumpsuit. If I'm down to sticks and rocks, I'm going to die defending myself and my friends, right? I'm not going to end up in an orange jumpsuit because you know what happens after that. Your head's lopped off with a rusty hatchet. But to have a warrior that has empathy and compassion and the mental ability to understand what it's doing to people and himself will not only make him a better warrior on the battlefield, but after the fact, they won't be repulsed to hear for the first time that it's going to affect him. They knew from the start it was going to affect him. It was okay all along that it would affect him. And now they're going to seek that treatment better versus, hey, you're sick now. That's what they hear. You're sick and you need help. I'm a warrior. I'm not sick. Okay, that's what they're hearing, right? And that's what they think we're saying to them. You're a warrior and it affected you. Let us help you with how it affected you. You'll still be a warrior, right? You just, let me put a cast on that broken arm for you.
Yeah, make no doubt about it. If somebody tries to break in our house, he can handle it.
Oh,
Like
I'll go to 1,000 miles an hour in a second, right? I'm probably
right.
not as good at it,
Right.
but then again, the guy breaking in my door probably wasn't trained either. So the enemy I'm meeting is not as trained now, so I can back off a bit, let my guard down a little bit, and enjoy the life I'm supposed to be enjoying versus pulling security every time we're on a picnic. It's just it's not enjoyable to live that way.
Right. Well, and if they break through your door now, Tom, they got to stay 6 feet away, and you're good.
It's illegal to break into our house.
Right. I love it. Jen, I wanna bring up one point and then we'll move on. But so and I don't think you alluded to this at all, but do you work with anything when you're working with the families or the soldiers when it comes to using their own you think of their God-given intuition, their so self whatever, and I know it's not all unicorn farts and fairy dust and all that great stuff, but a lot of people don't know what to call it. It's intangible, right? And
Yep.
but do you deal with any of that? And have you talked about how is that even perceived by some of those in uniform or even out of uniform?
So that's a interesting question, and I've seen an evolution, and I see a difference in age group too. So I'll see a difference between maybe a 26-year-old Green Beret versus a 50-year-old Green Beret. Different training, different experiences, and different ways of being raised. Right, we are a different generation than our children. So there is, I do see a shift in a difference with the younger guys coming in. They seem to be a little bit more in tune to intuitive thinking, understand a little bit more about moral injury, versus some of the guys I'm working with maybe in 40s or 50s. But so there's a difference there. But yes, we talk about moral injury, which isn't discussed. I've never heard it discussed in any military capacity ever. Not on an exercise or the training and the work we've been doing the last few years with the DoD. It's just not something that's discussed. I think there's a fear that if we talk about what taking a human life, how that will impact the soldier to be able to take a human life. So I think most of the time what I see is just ignore it and don't talk about it and just shove it away. Yet when I met Tom, his language has changed so much. So when I met him 7 years ago, he was everything was definite. That was a terrorist. He deserved to die. I'm proud of taking that person's life.
He looked like a terrorist. He deserves to die, right? I mean,
it was black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I did my job. I'm proud of my job. And I'll never apologize or ask forgiveness. Nothing. I mean, you are hardcore. I did what I did. I'm proud of what I did. It's never to say that you shouldn't be proud of what you did, or that you have immense value, because our warriors have immense value to the citizens of the world. I mean, we always say America, but to the citizens of the world. And that was one of the things I saw with, the work that we were doing as a civilian. I didn't understand how much, especially when we were working with Green Berets, how much they truly get in to help liberate the oppressed. For me, I was like, oh, they're door kickers and they're out. I'm like, oh no, there's medics and chaplains and there's educators and they're fit force and they're training others to defend themselves. Wow, why don't we learn about this in the civilian world?
That stuff doesn't make the news, does it? That stuff does not even make it.
I mean, when I heard DOL the first time, I'm like, oh, what is that? To liberate the oppressed. I'm like, wow, that's really noble. That's, a lot of that noble.
Well, first was, how do you liberate the oppressed? By shooting people. Like, well, you shoot the right people, number one. But, oh, by the way, here's what else they do. There's a whole team made up to raise a city, to, all the support elements, to treat the water plants and bring electricity back, and sanitation. I mean, it's a civilian community. It's a world that travels around and shows people how a world can work together, and it teaches all the pieces, and we're bringing these poor starving people, giving them a chance, giving them hope. A month later they hate you for being there again, but I mean, that's the cycle, right? That's you can't get out quick enough once they have it. Everybody wants things right now. you know.
Well, even
So it's a struggle to,
your view
and
of
that's why we turn
Somalia.
sour. I think all of us
Yeah.
turn sour.
Right,
To it.
right. I mean, if it's the same as anyone else, if you're a civilian, you're like, man, I do all of this work for, this nonprofit, and I'm helping all of these people, and I'm giving my life and my time and my energy and effort to help them, and then they just spit in my face. No one likes that, no matter where you are. But for Somalia, I feel like that was one of the biggest turning points for Tom. Was years and years, October 3 and 4 were very tough. They were dark. They were spent, I just want to spend the day by myself, or, I'd call him and he's at a bar all day. And one year, it was my daughter's birthday party that fell on 3 October. And we were just so busy planning her birthday party. And, there's tons of people and family and friends, and everyone's gathered on 3 October. And at the end of the night, he's like, it's 3 October. And I'm like, I don't know. We just planned a big party and had,
No
40
kidding.
people
We
at our
know
house.
the
But
day.
and then it hit, and I'm like, oh my God, I just lost my veteran wife card. I totally, that slipped, my mind. And I said, oh my God, you had such a great day. Like, you were laughing, you were playing with the kids, you were helping out, you weren't drinking the bottle dry. Like, you had such a great day. Because he was focused on family, he was focused on positivity. And just to see his face when I said, that's exactly what Gary and Randy and Tim and Earl, that's what they would want for you. They would want you having a fun time with your family on that day, remembering them for their sacrifices and the life that they gave, so that you guys could live a good life. Not that you would be sitting at a bar drunk by yourself, maybe getting a DUI or worse on the way home. They would want you with your families happy. That's what they were fighting for. It's what you were fighting for. And things really started to shift after that, when he could see, I'm not supposed to be miserable because I've lost so many I love. They don't have to be sad because they're not with us. Yes, I can hurt, I can grieve, I can honor, but I don't have to destroy myself because I made it.
It's like,
and
don't make it your identity. Poor me. I miss all my friends. I live survivor's
guilt. Or you don't understand.
Nobody understands me. It's like, come on. You know how many times we've heard that? Let go, and allow yourself to be happy.
Honor, respect, remember,
respect, but live happily, not miserable. Why would they want that?
Why do you think people don't want to let go? Do you believe that it's what they believe is part of their identity?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's become who they are. People with back pain, it's always, oh, my back. How you doing today? Oh, my back. Oh, it's always the backstory with you, huh? Or always this or that. But it becomes your identity. It becomes, I'm drunk. That's just, it's my excuse to keep drinking. I'm a drunk, right? So it's a joke. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, you're just trying to make it okay, even though I know, because you'll call me later sobbing, drunk, and you won't remember the next day. Why am I like this? Okay, stop drinking first. Let's talk. Put in the effort. It's work. It's work. You got to give up stuff you like. The security of the alcohol,
or the security of the misery.
Yeah, the security of the misery, the brotherhood of it. It's a brotherhood too, like the brotherhood of lost friends and those guys, and cheers every night. If I cheers every night to somebody I lost, I'd be drunk all the time. So there can be a healthy way to cheers. There can be a healthy way to remember, and you can still remember and let go of that negative identity that's obviously and visually ruining your life and your relationships.
I think that's pretty powerful. So this is kind of the backstory we've been talking about really you guys' personal struggle and bringing up kind of the birth of the All Secure Foundation. So, kind of share some of the work. And I know you already have a little bit, some of the conversations, the early on days, embedding with the teams and everything. But share with us kind of, if you bring us current day, kind of what the foundation is doing and some of the stuff that you've done.
We're really, heartbroken and excited about the foundation right now. Heartbroken because we had worked pretty hard to get to the place where we were having warrior couple retreats. And we did one, and it was so successful last year that we were able to raise funds to do 6 this year. And
we're scheduling 8 we were looking to fill 2 more places with 8, along with
Right. We got to the
active
place
duty
of 8.
military, you know, like 500 people at a time here and there. Added all that in this year. So it was set to be a wonderful year.
Gone away. But, you know, one of the great things about a challenge is you can get creative and you can pivot, and how you pivot sometimes leads to new doors that open and new interesting things that come of it. So while we did get our first retreat in with first special force, our first special warfare training group,
Airborne.
gosh, I know. So we did one with them in February. We're scheduled to do a few more, but like I said, you know, that work was really important. What we did was we'd have a 4-day retreat with couples who were combat deployed, who were maybe having issues with TBI, PTS, or, you know, and so many people don't like to associate with that word, and I get it, right? It's a label. So people who are just struggling to find their footing post-service, and really do want to live their best life, but don't know quite how to get there. So we have a therapist, Stacy Stone, who literally all the people, I'm like, I knew it. She is the unicorn. She is, she saved, you know, I love her so much. She's a phenomenal human being. And I said, you saved our marriage, because we started seeing her about 2 years ago. She said, I didn't save your marriage. I gave you the tools. You did the work. And so she comes on these retreats. Tom and I facilitate, Stacy facilitates. And, you know, we start cracking open that armor, start breaking it down a little bit, start opening up the wounds, start communication, and really starting to get to what's underneath the surface, what is bothering you, what is hurting your relationship. And then here are some of the tools that you can use to repair. Do we do the repair work? No, that could take 5 to 10 years to heal from PTS. Some shorter, some longer. So what we're really trying to do is create awareness around the issue. The strength of the tribe, right? So we're all together as a tribe. We're all in this together. It's okay to take that armor off for a minute, and or for life, you know, to create what you need to create next. And here's how to do it.
We'll crack it open first with a story about ourselves. I mean, they're hard. They suck. I'm usually at fault, and and I know that it's not the only story out there. We've heard so many people on the phone, thousands and thousands of veterans on the phone, and talking to them and their spouses about it. There's so many stories. So I know that's so similar, and we bring it up, and it kind of eases the tension. And then we have a discussion. Then we give them a tool, we let them practice it, and then we send them off on their own in some nice little area. And they work on it for a couple hours, and they come back. We get together, talk about it, and then we go out and do something fun. And we come back and start another session. We keep it light, we keep it fun, we keep it
date nights. Go so light, but
spouse
it's needed.
What's that?
I said it doesn't always go so light, but it's
needed.
No,
it's not. But you have to get out of that quick. You know, you don't want that, because our job is not. And we always talk about the videos and the podcasts we do. It's like everything's so it's like, man, PTS and your relationship, and let's all be happy, but it sucks first. It's like we need to throw in humor and bring it up, uplifting, and change it, because people don't gravitate towards that. They don't gravitate towards the misery. It's just a bit of a marketing struggle, if you will, I guess, if you look at it like a business.
Nobody wants to like the page that says PTS.
Yeah, nobody wants to like
right?
it. You get all the secret messages. Hey, man, what you guys are doing great. Like, I didn't think about us watching.
Right.
Crickets out there.
So how we pivoted in some of the things that we're going to, you know, continue to do and grow is that we already were planning on doing online content, online courses. Those have been in development. Hopefully we can shoot those next month or sometime soon. We're trying to figure that out too, but we will have online courses. So for people who can't go to the retreat, or, you know, like I said, we had 6, then 8 retreats. They were filled in the first day. So, you know, we have hundreds of people that we can't get to. So we wanted to offer the online course so you could have the experience of a retreat as closest to it as possible, with the awareness, with the information, with the tools, but online. We work with a lot of active duty. We've got guys in Afghanistan, Iraq, South America, all over the world, Africa, who need the help. They don't want to wait 4 months till they're back to get it. Their wife doesn't want to wait 4 months, or, you know, maybe another 6 for the retreat. So this online course, I think, is going to be really powerful, really impactful. And so not only are we doing the warrior couple, but also the warrior child, working on how to reconnect with your children, which is a huge issue. And then also possibly one on substance abuse that will be handled by a third party. We don't work with substance abuse, but it is an issue. So we'll have online courses launching, and we still do Zoom presentation with active duty groups, veteran groups. And we're actually working with somebody in the UK who is with special forces there, working with us to train some veterans, ambassadors that we have in hypnotherapy, so that we can keep spreading out and keep helping more, essentially teaching to fish, you know, so
It's
that
like we ask people,
we can pass it on.
ask warriors right now, what are you doing? Right now, what are you doing? Well, we can't do anything. Yeah, you can. What are you doing? Don't just drink all day. Don't just sit around and be miserable all day. What are you doing? Shifting, pivot. Warriors shift, pivot, adapt, overcome, right? So that's what we're doing. Okay, we're going to do online content anyway. Let's do it right now. Let's do the online content now. We put our therapists, we have the ability of people reach out and talk to our therapists. We're paying for that. St. Louis Counseling has given us, they gave us 12 or 7 more slots of 12 sessions each for counseling over the phone or via Zoom. So you got to pivot and shift, right? You're going to fall down and fail, get back up and keep moving. You can't stop when you fall down.
Well, you know, it was interesting. You talked about, I had just went out to your, I think it was a Facebook page, right? And it was the Warriors Anonymous, the closed AA and NA recovery meetings for military and first responders every Wednesday at 1900 or 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Zoom, right? So, so, you know, just one example of what you guys are doing. Some of those, you're using innovation and technology to you guys' advantage.
That was a friend of ours that we recommended to Warriors Heart. He went to Warriors Heart and got on his spoon, doing great. And he tried to start an AA thing. I think he's up in Michigan.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working out. So he
well, and then COVID happened, and he's like, how do
COVID happened. So he's like, man, I just want to get out. And these things were just kicking off. And I was like, go online. Everybody's online. Just go online. Put something out there. And he did it. He stuck it out. We shared it for him. People were like, oh, and they showed up like they thought we were doing it, which, hey, whatever.
Right.
They got there and they loved it. And people were hitting me up about it. Hey, I'm glad you did it. All my buddy, man. It's just our idea. Told him to do it. He did it. And it's growing every week. So
sometimes people just need, and I do too, and he does too. We often talked about that. We can't work in a vacuum.
Right.
We can't operate in a vacuum. He's used to working with, 50 other guys. And, I was on creative teams. I'm used to working with teams. So we love collaborating. We love hearing from veterans or veteran spouses or active duty members on, hey, have you guys thought about this? Or we love to hear what's lacking so that we can hopefully work to provide that solution as well. And I'd love to see people stepping up saying, hey, Alcoholics Anonymous isn't meeting like it is right now, or we can't find groups. So be innovative. Say, I'll do it. I'll step up. I'll be the soldier to say, I'll take that task. And it's so inspirational, this community of leaders, really phenomenal leaders.
Very cool. So, obviously you guys are like involved in everything. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was your book, Tom, All Secure. Share with us a little bit about that.
That was another project that I didn't want to do. And for the reasons that were proven immediately when I started it. Once word got out that I was doing a book after I was, I say pushed into it, but I was led to it because I needed to do it. It was going to give us the ability to reach as many people as possible. And so far we've gotten over 20,000 people that have bought the book. A lot, trust me, a lot of them have reached out, other than it's not too hard. It's an amazing book. I learned so much. Two, I went out and got therapy. Two, I read your book. I went and checked out your Facebook page, saw that you did TMS. I went and got that and I've never felt better. So the end theme for me for doing the book finally was that people got something out of it. It wasn't going to be about check out me, look at me, I did cool shit, I'm cool. I'm not that way. I can't. And so when the book process started, I'm getting texts from friends. Hey, man, I heard you're doing a book. What are you, a Navy SEAL now? And I'm like, there it is. There it is. Let's get that out early.
Heard that once or twice.
And, yeah, I hadn't heard that one before.
It's
and
unique.
I asked them, well, what's the book about? Do you even know? Oh, well, no. And so I kind of described the book, in total, which is the book's a little bit about me growing up, which a lot of that was removed. We overwrote it. It was too long to show that it's a normalcy, right? It's just normal. There's nothing special. I didn't have a golden spoon in my mouth. I didn't have money. I wasn't physically fit. I was picked on. And I joined the Army on a whim. Okay, so I got lucky. I picked on something. And then once I put my heart into it, I became the best at something. And I enjoyed it and I excelled at it. And oh, by the way, it destroyed me. And here's how I got out of it. And oh, by the way, here are some modalities that I tried at the end of the book. And here's our foundation. By the time you read this, hopefully there's more. And boom, it worked and it's working. And I'm so glad I did it. I just got chills. Not because, I haven't made a penny. It's cost me money to write this book.
Awesome.
So anybody out there that thinks, oh, you guys are rich now. Yeah, well, no. If you know anything about writing a book and write a book, you know it costs money to write a book. So unless I'm Stephen King, I'm not getting any money out of that. But it did what it did, which is all we wanted it to do, was to show people that I don't care what level you're at, what rank you are. When you go home, and I tell everybody, whether you're a general or private, when you go home, you're just somebody's spouse. They want you there, and they want you to pay attention, love them, and oh, by the way, do the dishes. They don't care about your work. That's your job. You did that. But to go get help to be happy. You deserve it. You deserve it.
We were on the phone at that time before the book, probably 10 hours a day, taking calls. And every time I shared Tom's story, I told him, I said, I feel like I'm on repeat 11 hours a day because I'm saying the same thing because the problems are so similar. And your story needs to be told. So I can just say, go buy the book, read it, and then call me back. And then we'll move on. It's like, that's step one. Call me when you've read the book, which we've done. And honestly, so many people have called and said, I read the book. I didn't know this, or I didn't know that, or I didn't know that other people felt that way. And most commonly is, oh, I was only in for like 8 years, or oh, I only did this, or I'm like, why are you saying only with what you did?
I hate that. Hey, my story's not like yours, but I go, who cares about the story? How do you feel right now? That's what we're talking about.
There you go.
How do you feel right now? I don't care about your story, man. I don't want to tell my stories. I'd like to forget a lot of them. There's some cool ones in the book. Obviously, you have to get people to pick it up. So, you can't have like a book on, oh, poor me. It's got to be about some exciting stuff to get people to read it. But I think we wrote it in such a way that it keeps you going. I've heard a lot of, I can't put it down. And Jackson did a great job with that, co-author. I'm not an author, right? I just have a story and I helped out writing a lot of stuff down and stuff in the right order. He really did it to a way that kept people reading it. It's not all about, the boring and the hard stuff along the way. It's all mixed in there.
Very cool. So before we close out, I wanted to talk about something recent, because Jen's such an editing ninja that you guys recently did a project called No One Left Behind, right?
Absolutely.
A little thank you. Can you guys talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Again, we wanted reach. We saw. We have a new guy. We have an FNG, but we saw. It was a commercial, right? And it had some actors going about the COVID, blah blah blah, and we thought about it, and then our new guy brought it up as well, and we thought, why not get to work now? Why wait for someone else to put it out? Why not get something going? So we linked up with all of our close friends that have some pull. We reached out to some people that we have
Brad
that
Thomas
are pretty hot. Brad Thomas, he knows a lot of people that he brought into the project.
And his story is so inspirational.
His story is so inspiring as well, and what he does. And he's had the ability to reach out and a lot of high level people that have a lot of reach, right? And it's not about who you are. It's about your message and how you feel. And oh, by the way, are you going to share the same message? And look at us from different parts of the world. And it's weird, some of the responses we got, from the weird people. I hate you, movie. You guys don't know shit. We're not all in this together. I'm like,
Are there celebrities?
Oh,
Why?
you'll never
Who
get it
cares?
right. Somebody made a lot of money up front, and then a virus hit. So yeah, they have that money to go ahead and enjoy in a nicer house. I get it. Doesn't mean everybody gets money because we have a virus. It's suffering is all at different levels in life, but we're all in this together. We're all scared for our families, our own lives, and trying to get along. And people with a lot of money have the ability to lose a lot of money too. So
Yeah.
when we judge people, we're judging from our small little worlds, aren't we? I mean, when you're judging from a small place. So we don't shine a light on those comments, but we wanted to show that everybody cared, and all those were heartfelt messages.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody cares. We're all struggling, but we'll all make it through.
And I think one of the important things, or at least what drew me to it, was to talk to veterans who had been in dark places and had made their way to the light. And so we asked them, what advice would you have? Not only for soldiers, but for the world. Here you are, you're a leading example. All of these fantastic men and women who have been through dark times, who have been through chaos, who have been through trouble. What would you tell the world now about managing it and getting through it? And so that was really our hope, was that, people, the celebrity's always the draw, right? People want, oh, there's Jack Osbourne or Max Martini, and they're fantastic people and great human beings that do a lot for the military community. But just important as them is, Brad Thomas and Chris Van Sant, everyone who's in the video, sharing their message of, hey, this is how you can get through it. And so actually that was the long video. It's like 12 minutes
That's a long one.
It's
we know.
A long video.
Struggle through it. You'll like it. We know.
For an editor,
we had to cut people out. There was so many good stories.
Yeah, we lost a lot of veterans. I'm like, dude, this is 12 minutes. This goes against everything in my editing bones right now. We should be at 7 or less, but
yeah.
I couldn't cut anymore. And honestly, what we're going to do now is take, so for example, Brad gave us a, 8-minute clip. Well, he might be in the video for, 3.5 minutes. So we're going to release all of those veteran videos now in their entirety, so that you can see Brad's stories, Chris's story. So
what I loved about it was, it really exuded a lot of no BS, right? And I think one of you mentioned that, where it was all heartfelt, and you could really feel that, and you could tell that from the video. And I was like, wow, that's just a powerful. I was like, no way. I was like, look at these. At first, in a joking way, and I was saying it because I saw Max and I saw Brad on it, who I'd known for a little while now, and I was like, look at these jokers. What are they doing now? And so, of course, drew me into the video, and I was like, holy crap, that's an awesome video. And so yeah, it was really well done. So, but and it was powerful too, right? It's not just because it has Max and and everybody else. It's not because of that. It's because of what was shared.
Right.
And that's the thing. And Tom, you talked about it. It's not because of somebody's prior status or status. It was really about what they were exuding, or it could have been Joe Schmo that I don't know from Iowa, right?
It's always our same message: no one left behind, because we're really all the same. I mean, right. Unless you're so resistant to society, there are those out there, right? So just open up and let it in. I'd be remiss too if I didn't bring up Jen is closing in on the finish of her book with a book deal that is going to bring what mine brought to this side. Hers is going to be the other half of that story that we didn't tell in my book.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it for a second? She won't brag about it, but I'll brag about it. I mean, here you are getting therapy in a book, along with the stories of how and these people that she's helped them and along the way. So she read part of it to me last night. I started crying twice. Just as she tells a story about how I was screwed up and the things I did, and her thought process through the whole thing. It's like, oh, so that's what a therapist thinks. That's what a therapist thinks when you're telling stories. That's what they're going through.
And I'm not a therapist. But
she's not a therapist. We have to say that for legal reasons. But
right.
We don't do therapy. We do coaching and retraining. Honestly, the guys all have the tools. The people that need help all have the tools. We just kind of help them dust them off and use them again in a different way. So, yeah, we wanted to reach out to the wives that go through this, and all the people she talks to all day long about it. So hey, here's the book on this. So we'll also hand that out at our retreats for people to to read, or before, probably before, so they can show up after reading it, sit down and talk about it at the retreat.
Yeah, I just hope that I felt so alone and isolated in being a veteran spouse, and it felt very odd to me because here I'm surrounded maybe by an entire team, and I've got 40 guys around me, and another 20 guys that are staff that are running the exercise who are all former SOF. And so I'm completely surrounded by this world, yet I feel completely isolated in it and alone in it. And so many of the spouses I talk to, doesn't matter if they're a first wife or a third wife, doesn't matter if they're military or veteran, felt just like I did. So I was having those 11-hour conversations, just like with the veteran, the same conversation over and over again with the spouses. And I felt like somebody's got to talk about the hard stuff. Somebody's got to talk about the elephant in the room, and we're already out there. So let's just keep going.
When is that book scheduled to come out, Jen?
October.
October. Well,
Yeah,
we would be honored to have you back on the show and talk about that
Thank you.
life-changing book, because I know that it's going to be changing lives, and get you back on the show and
Great.
you both and talk about it and some of the stuff, that transpires between this conversation and the next time that we chat, and and hopefully we're trusting that the process of this COVID issue is behind us and everybody is right. Who knows, right? But like Tom, like you said, all you can do is shift and pivot.
Yeah, just keep your eyes on Georgia. We'll figure it out.
I know. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on today's show. It was an honor and a privilege to have you guys on, and it was so fun to chat with you guys. Just really great conversation, and and again, of course, I know you hear it all the time. Thank you for your service, and not just Tom, but Jen as well. Thank you for what you're doing, and you guys are really, truly, and I know you probably hear this as well, but you are changing lives. So keep doing what you're doing, but keep on inspiring others, because really that's what it is, right? It's the ripples in the pond, and inspiring and empowering others, and let them go off, do great, awesome things, and inspire somebody else. So
absolutely. And thank you, Dean, for having us on. We really appreciate it.
It was a great time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.